Hey, everybody, this is Pastor D, Pathway Community Church, Practical Path Ministry, 1028 Salem Avenue in Hagerstown, Maryland. It is Tuesday night, 7 p.m. We are here till about 8. And this podcast is called the Practical Path Podcast. This is my wife, Ashley. Say hey. Um, Wanted to talk to you tonight. Basically, just to let you guys know that we love having people tune in. We like having viewers. We like having folks, hit us up as to what we're going to talk about with questions, anything along that line. Folks, if you're seeing this podcast, take the time. Feel free to comment, like, and subscribe. It really, really helps us out. So, topic of today of this podcast is what does it mean to be someone that is flawed, that can never meet, okay, Christ's example? What does that mean? Someone that is trying to follow Christ, but have it in his head or her head that they cannot meet that bar. What does that mean to you?
Nobody's ever going to meet that bar. And if you start out thinking that way, that you're never going to measure up, you're not going to be able to do what the Bible says you should do and all these other people say you should do. So why bother? And then you just give up because in your head it's too hard.
I mean, that's the thing. I mean, even folks that are further down the road, they end up wanting to give up at times. I mean, I tell you the truth. I mean, I'm a certified minister, and at the same time, there are times I look at, what it means to be, less sinful and try to follow Christ's path, and it still gets me how daunting it is. So, the thought process of trying to teach, folks or mentor folks or disciple folks towards the idea of, you know, what can be done. I tell you, that in and of itself is a daunting task. Trying to mentor somebody saying, hey, okay, Christ was perfect. Christ was sinless. Okay. Christ was both God and man at one time. And his example, we should try to follow. That looks like a mountain to somebody that doesn't already follow him, don't you think?
Yeah. And it's even harder when everybody's telling you, Christians,
Like I did that, Christian. Yeah, Christians. Okay. You know what?
telling you that you have to do this, you have to do that. If you do this and you don't call it, you're not a Christian. But when it comes down to it, they all do it.
Mm-hmm.
In your face, they'll say, "Oh no, I don't do that. I'm perfect. I don't sin." It's not true. We are sinful human beings. God knows we are. God knows we're gonna F it up every day, every other day. That's why He sent Jesus. Make it easier for us to receive His grace, try harder than you did the day before, but knowing in Him each day is a new day, a new chance to improve yourself. But knowing He knows, and if you accept, I'm not going to get it right all the time, that's fine. At least you're trying. And that's the key point, is you're trying. You're trying to be a better person.
Okay. But is trying enough?
That's all we have is trying.
You think so?
I think so.
Okay.
You don't know unless you try something. And
But, I mean, we're going to fall short even trying.
right? That's why God tells us, it's a new day. Try again today.
Okay, so I can go be a jerk all day and it'll just be renewed the next day then. Is that what you're saying?
Well, no.
I mean, I can go visit the brothels. I can go shoot some people. I can go rob it up. And then the next day,
That's not really trying, though.
I mean, it is.
No, it's not.
It is. I pray to God at the end of the night, Lord, I killed people. I robbed banks.
At some point, God's gonna, yeah, you can keep doing that, but at some point, It's either going to be you don't have a relationship, Adam, at all,
Sure.
and you're just using him to make yourself feel better.
Mhm.
But nothing's changing. You don't really have a relationship. Because if you do have that relationship with him, at some point, something in here is going to start saying, you better change. You need to change. And you're going to feel it. You're going to have that want to change.
Mhm. Mhm. And what does that feeling feel like, though? I mean, well, what I mean is, for somebody that is a Christian, right? We have those feelings. We know what that feels like. But for someone that's coming in, right, that's trying to seek Him, they have no idea, right? We're telling them, yeah, you'll feel it, but what does it mean to feel it?
I had it once told to me. And I mean, it kind of feels like this, I guess, to me, but it almost feels like, they talk about the guilty conscience.
Okay.
You kind of get that feeling.
Mhm.
And I think the intensity of it could change into how much God is working in you, trying to get you to say, hey, knucklehead, knock it off. But I know this has nothing to do with trying or anything, but there was one time I remember, I don't know, it was a few years ago. I all of a sudden had this overwhelming need to learn things. I didn't quite know what it was about or what I was supposed to learn. It was just, I needed a book and I needed to figure something out and learn some stuff.
Okay.
And after talking with Justin about that, he said,
Justin is our pastor, by the way.
yes. He said, well, isn't one of your gifting teaching? I said, yeah. He said, that's God telling you this is your gift. Let's use it.
Yeah, he's pretty big on spiritual giftings and, us stepping out in authority to use what it is that God has gifted us with. So when it comes to, me, I can't say that I've never felt God's presence. I mean, I felt it in different measures, right? I mean, I felt it time. I mean, I'll give you an example. When I went in the military, uh, I want to say weekend, I was ready to go. I knew this life wasn't for me. You know, there were things that I needed to learn, things I needed to grow up on, get some more common sense from being a smart kid, knowing a little bit of street language, but generally speaking, being a goody two shoes and not knowing really the ways of the world. Me against the world time at 18, you know, I knew that I needed to grow up. So I go in the military. And again, for those that have watched these podcasts, for those that know me, you know that I had God beat into me in my head. Uh, you're going to follow him, you're going to believe in him, and you're going to do what it takes to be a Christian because I tell you to. And this came from, those that are older than me, my grandmother and, folks like that. But God bless them, it's just, not the best way to introduce a kid to God. Despite it being, age old way. But anyway, back to the point, I was in the military, I go in, and I'm needing something to help me through this ordeal, right? And God showed up in many, many ways. One of the biggest of which, I decided to go to a Sunday service, and it was the first one that I was there for. And it had nothing to do with me wanting to find God. It had to do with me just wanting to be away from the military atmosphere for the moment. I The minute that I got in there and I started singing, which I never really did, it turns out that I felt him inside. Felt God saying that I've got your back. I felt God, holding me, telling me that I was going to survive and thrive. All I had to do was be obedient, and all I had to do was take life one day at a time. Do what I got to do. I I was there for a reason. It turns out the reason was, well, what I thought. I needed to grow up because I was wet behind the ears. I was a very shallow individual. I was an individual who didn't care much about other people. I didn't know what it meant to love someone else uh, in a fraternal sense. I didn't know how to love someone else, and via proxy of that, I didn't know how to love God or even spread His love. But that actual experience with Him there, singing those songs that I'd never heard before. I mean, I'm black. It was a white church. I mean, most of the people I went in with, they were white, and these were Pentecostal. What's the other? Protestant. It was basically a Protestant type. So I come from a Baptist background, so it's drastically different, right? So, oh, I mean, you're Lutheran. I don't care. I don't know you're Lutherans. Anyway, um, God did some business with me, right? And that's the point that I want to make here is that despite me hating the situation that I was in, despite me going into this not really knowing what I was getting into, despite me not really knowing God, and despite God having been beat into my head, God came to me in my basically in my heart, my mind, and said, "I've got your back. You're going to survive this. You're going to thrive in this. I'm going to get you through. Lean on me. Be obedient and lean on me. I've got you." And I leaned on Him quite a bit, uh, all the way through life now, and after learning my spiritual giftings and then not being afraid to operate in them. Because let me tell you, when you learn what mine are, and I'll get into that in another video, that's a whole different conversation. Um, when learning what mine was, and then testing that both via actual tests. They actually have testings for spiritual giftings. If you want to know what that is, feel free to put that in the comments. We will get that to you, or send us an email. It's no problem. We'll get that to you. But once I learned what it was, trying to operate in my giftings was very daunting. It was something I was terrified of because my particular gifting is been used really poorly, and it makes a bad example of a lot of Christians, and it makes those like all of you, that we would love to have in here. We would love to speak to, love to interact with, love to meet with. It makes all of you basically hate being a Christian or hate the thought of Christianity or talking to Christians or coming to a service or you know having some Christian friends and them speaking about their faith. And in all honesty, I can't blame you because if you're going to have someone beating you over the head with it, and you're going to have someone going all high holy on you, and you're not there, then what they're saying to you, one, is falling on deaf ears, but two, it's kind of pushing you away. And sometimes as Christians, we kind of forget that, huh?
It definitely makes you, when people are hounding it into you, it definitely makes you feel inferior. Like, well, there's no way I'm going to measure up to what they do, so why?
Well, are you measuring up, honey?
In my own way, yes.
Okay. Oh, hey. Just making sure. Gotta make sure you on your P's and Q's. You keep me on mine, I'll keep you on yours. So, all right, guys, we're gonna be getting up out of here shortly. Uh, just wanted to let you know again, this is the podcast for the Practical Path Ministry, 1028 Salem Avenue, Pathway Community Church here in Hagerstown, Maryland. Just to let you guys know, we care about people. We care about those that are unchurched, for those that don't know God, for those that are basically starting to seek God or have questions. Even if you have questions, even if you don't like God, no, it's okay. Comment, like, subscribe on the podcast. Hit us up. We'll be here for you. This is Pastor D. This is Ashley. We're out.